Hey, what's up you guys? This is Rob from McGay Plays, and today on the rundown, get ready to taste the rainbow when we take a look at Chroma. So as many of you know, Chroma was themed after the chromatic dragons, whose color dictated their elemental base. Much like his fashion-forward predecessors, this sexy beast can swap between our 4 basic elements, fire, ice, electric, and toxin, with a simple color swap. That aside, his kit gives him some very interesting tactical options, from being modded out as an icy cold heavily armored brawler to an electrifying decoy dropping speedster. Uneducated Tenno can customize him for almost any kind of play. So you can pick up Chroma by completing the New Strange, a quest given by Cephalon Samaris, who is found in the Relays. Just be aware that this will require you to be Mastery Rank 5 and to have completed the Stolen Dreams quest, which is available in the Codex. Another thing to note, as a part of Chroma's component cost, you'll need a fully built Sarin systems, Frost chassis, Ember helmet, and Volt helmet in order to finish the construction. Now if that sounds like way too much trouble for you, you can always pick them up in the market pre-built along with a reactor and Warframe slot for 375 plat. There's also a Dragon bundle which is available for 615 plat, but I'll let you look up those details yourself. Now let's start with a quick overview of the elements of their status effects. Heat deals bonus damage to fleshy targets and works quite well against the infested. Its proc deals 50% of your ability's base damage over the course of 6 seconds, and can cause enemies to panic for a brief period. Cold is great against alloy armor and standard shielding, but do keep in mind that it doesn't do too well against the infested. However, its proc slows the affected unit's movement speed, attack speed, and fire rate by 50% for 6 seconds. Toxin works well against non-infested living targets, as well as ferrite armor. It also innately bypasses shielding, making this a nice damage choice for any faction other than infested. Its proc deals 50% of your ability's base damage over time, over the course of 8 seconds. Also keep in mind that these procs can stack on top of each other, dealing multiple instances of damage. Finally, electric is great versus robotic and mechanical targets. However, not much else. Its proc causes it to chain to a nearby target, instantly dealing 50% of your power's base damage, and briefly stunning them. Now with that out of the way, let's shed a little light on what Chroma's working with. So Chroma's first ability is Spectral Screen. Chroma hunkers down and begins to breathe elemental damage in a frontal cone, consuming energy while it's toggled on. In this state, Chroma's move speed is slowed. He's unable to use any weapons or activate any other abilities. However, he is free to rotate and pan up and down in order to direct the cone's damage. At max rank, it also has a 60% chance to proc its respective element's status effect. To be honest with you, I'm not too fond of this one. The slow and the range renders you a sitting duck, unless of course you have a little something that's keeping the enemies preoccupied. Even then, the damage on this ability isn't all too amazing, even if you do tailor its damage type to fit the faction you're facing. Honestly, you're better off just gunning them down. Chroma's second ability, Elemental Ward, is where your elemental choice truly shines. Activating this ability creates an area of effect aura around you that buffs any allies that stand nearby. The Heat Aura provides a bonus 200 health and deals 100 fire damage per second to any enemies caught in the aura with a 10% chance to proc. The Cold Aura increases your armor by 150 and reflects a percentage of the damage taken back to the attacker with a 25% chance to proc. Note that this does not reflect melee attacks, and while rockets that make contact with you will be reflected, any area effect damage resulting from explosions off of terrain will not. The Toxin Aura grants you an additional 100 stamina, reduces stamina cost by 30%, and has a 50% chance to inflict the Toxin proc to nearby enemies. The Electric Aura provides a bonus 100 shielding. It also takes any incoming damage, amplifies it, and discharges a bolt of electricity onto a nearby enemy, depending on how much damage you've taken. If you are taking damage but there are no enemies within its range, it will store all of that damage and discharge it once an enemy gets close. Now, while some of these bonuses are a bit low, the cool thing about these is that they tend to lend themselves to a very specific playstyle. Fire and Toxin are all about getting up close and personal, while Ice is great for control and engaging ranged units. As for Electricity, it's a great way to keep your enemies at range. Chroma's third ability is Vex Armor. Every time you take shield damage, you increase your armor rating, capping it at 350% at max rank. However, it doesn't stop there. Once your shields are depleted and you start taking health damage, you gain a weapon damage multiplier capping at 2.75. Note that once acquired, these bonuses last for the full duration of the ability and scale with power strength. While this won't make you immortal, you could legitimately make yourself tankier than Valkyr. You're just gonna have to take a couple hits before you get there. Now, Chroma's final ability, Effigy, sheds his draconic pelt, creating a superpowered stationary decoy which sports a whopping 8,000 points of health at max rank. Now, from what I've seen, it has 3 attacks, an elemental breath that seems to have a fairly long range, a stunning roar that momentarily incapacitates surrounding enemies, and an area effect knockback that only occurs if you or an ally is nearby. Now, do note that thematically, your pelt is like your armor, and following suit, using this ability reduces your armor by 50%, but does slightly increase your movement speed. Now, this is another toggle ability and it costs power to maintain, but it has no limit to its duration other than its hit points and your energy pool. If it takes too much damage, you run out of energy, or you toggle off the ability, the pelt will return to you along with your armor and your original movement speed. Note that while Energy Vampire and Energy Orb will help you maintain Effigy, Energy Plates will have no effect. Now, this is one of the most creative abilities that I've seen, both in theme and in use. You can pop it to help take heat off of you while you pick up a downed ally. You can use it to help hold a point while you run off to capture another. Or you can go fucking double dragon and annihilate enemies side by side. The only thing that I'm not 100% sure of is how this will scale into endgame. It's got control components, and with the right elements proccing statuses, it could prove to be an asset. However, endgame scaling is always an issue. Now, side note, in the game description it also states that there is some sort of credit bonus stuff, but honestly that's not something I can prove or measure, so we'll wrap it up right here. So all in all, I must say that I really enjoy Chroma. His mechanics are quite interesting. The ability to change his elemental base can prove to create some very potent build synergies, provided that you understand that the benefits of each element encompass more than just the amount of damage they do. My only real concern is how he'll scale into late and endgame. The fact is his core defensive abilities require him to take hits and be in close range of his enemies, which can prove to be quite dangerous as difficulty ramps. In that same vein, as enemy levels begin to escalate, control really becomes king, and having to rely on your effigy and elemental procs may not be enough to prove your worth to a group. However, as we've seen, there is a lot more to Chroma than what sits on the surface, so I'm willing to reserve my judgment until this sexy beast shows us everything that he's hiding underneath that pelt. So thank you all for watching another episode of The Rundown. Be sure to check out the previous episode on Oberon, and if you haven't caught the re-upload of my U16 fanboying, be sure to check that out as well. Now, don't forget to do all the things that I ask you to do at the end of every one of these, and as always, stay tuned while we strip down more Warframes here at A Gay Guy Plays. Well, that just goes to show, being a flamer, not always a bad thing.